The more you know. Brought to you by Flagstaff, Rockwood, building better RVs, making smarter RVers.
By now, most people, or probably half the people in the United States, have put their RVs away for the winter. You know, they're gone till next spring. They're sleeping someplace in a storage lot. And they've winterized, but winterized means a whole lot more than just draining your water lines and putting antifreeze in, emptying your tanks. Talk to me a little bit about what you think somebody needs to do if they haven't yet winterized, or if they've winterized, they may want to go back and do some more winterizing to kind of reassure it.
Well, I think step one is, join you and I and move to Texas and don't really worry too much about it for most of the year.
And hope we don't have another Valentine's week.
Oh, yes. No more of those storms. All jokes aside, I think it's the little things like just making sure that your water heater is completely drained. Making sure that your tanks, that you've closed your gate valves, but that there's not anything that's then pooled up down in those little elbow areas right there where that could freeze and expand. I would say just double and triple checking most things. Make sure you've got the stuff out of your freezer or your refrigerator. The amount of people that might leave something in there over the winter only to find that things have exploded in there, over the winter time and created a mess. I think there's a lot of little things that people overlook. What kind of totes do you have that you're carrying a lot of your gear with you? Like, what do you have in there that might freeze and explode? Do you have condiments in different areas? Do you have shampoos? Like, there's so much like little stuff that people take with them that they overlook that then just, it's not going to be a catastrophic failure, but cleaning shampoo out of a cabinet that's all over the place, after 3 months, like, that's not fun. Yeah, it's not fun.
What about moisture? Moisture is the enemy of RVs, big time. And people, some people put covers on their RVs. So how do you feel about covers? Talk to me about the moisture, the condensation factor that is very, it happens in RVs.
Yeah, I mean, in only speaking about like a winterization type process, or just kind of in a general sense?
Well, first off, winterization. Let's talk about that. Covering that thing up, is it a good idea to leave a couple of small vents open to get some airflow a little bit, or cover that whole thing up, let it sit? What are your thoughts about that?
My personal opinion is button it up as tight as possible, because the last thing you want is a vent that's open, snow piles up on there, snow melts, and then you got, moisture coming in and out. Button it up. They're designed to button up and stay tight. In a wintertime, just like out at the plant, if we sit them out there after they're built, they're buttoned up. As far as a cover, that's hit and miss. I think that's up to a personal opinion. You don't necessarily have to do a cover. They're designed to be outside, that whole thing. But I think in certain areas of the country, it could give some people some peace of mind. Parking something outside for a long period of time in somewhere like Colorado or up in the mountains, where not only is it getting like snow and extreme temperatures, but also the sun out there can bake those seals. And you've heard me talk a lot about, maintain your seals on the roof. Down in, southern areas or coastal areas, you've got to be cautious with covers, because then you are trapping moisture, and you're trapping moisture between the cover and the outside. And I don't know the implications of, are you going to get mildew on the roof because it was wet and then you covered it, So we don't recommend covers as part of, normal maintenance, but there are a lot of people who really like them. They cover their tires, to prevent sun damage, things like that. It's a big thing out there, but it's not necessarily a required thing to do.
What kind of damage is caused to an RV that sits for a long time, that's got excess condensation or moisture buildup in it? But it can't be good for the unit. Moisture is the enemy of an RV.
It is. Moisture would be the enemy of an RV if it's intruding into like a laminated sidewall or into your insulation on the outside. As far as if you live in a humid environment, I mean, we sell thousands of units into southern Louisiana every year, and people button them up and they sit there and go. I mean, very rarely do you have an issue. Now, if you've got an issue with an air conditioner that's not running properly and there's a ton of humidity that's built up, and then you close that thing up real quick and shut it down, like, you can get some mildew buildup because there's so much humidity and condensation inside. But For the most part, I rarely hear about that being an issue. The bigger issue that I run into that you hear about is if there's some water getting into a roof or a vent, or that's the type of thing that you need to be the most concerned about. But I don't have a lot of issues with actual condensation. Some stuff that you'll find out there with, especially paper wrapped cabinet doors. So by that, I mean, instead of using like a real solid wood cabinet door, what they do is they take like a MDF type material. Imagine like a IKEA furniture, where it's like a chipboard that they blend together, and then they wrap it with paper. And the reason they do that is because it's cheaper, but it gives a very uniform look. You can get any particular type of,
but it peels off too.
So the humidity and condensation, where they cut it on the edges, you'll start to see that like creep back and peel up, and it'll attack that paper wrapping on a lot of those cabinet doors. You'll see that for sure.